Our names are Paul and Eunice.
My name is Kelvin Moses.
My name is Jackie Orther, and this is my story of change. I grew up in South Florida. I was raised by a single mom. And at age 12, the state came in and took me away from my mom. When I was about 16, I left Florida. My mother had moved out to Arizona, and I went there to try to find her and rekindle our relationship. And during this time, I met a guy who had just gotten out of prison. And being super codependent and finding out that he had a drug problem, it became my mission to try to save him. And I thought, if maybe I start doing drugs, he loves me so much that that's what it will take to get him to stop doing the drugs. And it didn't quite work out that way. I ended up getting addicted to the drugs, and within time I was starting to do some things that I never thought I would do. Fast forward about 7 years. We had moved out of state, and I got pregnant, and we decided that he would turn himself in because he had some warrants out for his arrest. And I was sober, and I was working, and my child was perfect. And then his dad got out of prison, and he says, "I want to do it one more time." I'm like, "Do what one more time?" And he said, "You know." And I said, "No, I don't." And he said, "I want to get high one more time." And my heart broke. And so he got high, and about 2 weeks later, he was still getting high. 2 weeks later, now I'm getting high. And years later, my son is now 7 years old, and my son's father has a warrant out for his arrest. And the police came, they took my son's father away, and they took my son and I down to the police station. And they asked me, they said, "If you have a drug problem, we can help you. Do you have a drug problem?" And I thought this was my chance. So I told them I did have a drug problem. The state worker came in, and they took my son. And I thought, I can't go that long, and I have to do something. So I came up with this plan that I would go kidnap him. And we remained on the run for about 3 months. Till one day I called my sister, and she said, "The FBI is looking for you. But if you turn your son over, then they won't federally charge you." And here I am sitting in jail. And I think my son will better understand that I can't talk to him, I can't come see him because I'm dead, rather than some mean judge said so. So I had this plan of suicide. And as soon as the withdrawal started, I was gonna go ahead and start that. And at the end of the first week, I'm still not in withdrawal. And the end of the second week goes by and I'm not in withdrawal. And finally, at the end of the third week, I get a visitor from this deacon of the church that I had visited. And he said, "When we saw you on the news, the whole church would get together and pray for you." And I thought, there is a God. Because nothing can explain why 3 weeks in jail I'm not in withdrawal. And I get just a glimmer of hope that I don't have to die, and then I can get my son back. And I get out of jail that week, and I'm court ordered into a treatment center where I was there for 8.5 months. And towards the end of that 8.5 months, I'm allowed to get a job, and I eventually get an apartment, and I start to get some normalcy back in my life. 6 months later was the most beautiful day of my life. And that was the day that the state gave me my son back. It was a short time later, I had a girlfriend invite me to church. Then this guy started telling my story up there. And he was talking about being a slave to sin. And before I knew what was happening, I just stood up and I prayed to receive Christ. I'm not that hopeless drug addict. I'm not that girl that I used to be. I am a new person. You can have one encounter with Jesus and it can change your life. And for 2,000 years, Jesus has been meeting people and he's been changing lives one person at a time. Yeah, he never changes, but he changed me.